Welcome back to WagerTalk TV. I'm your host, Steve Merrill, joined by Rob Vino and Tony Mejia, both from WagerTalk.com, along with myself. Find all of our best bets for this Saturday college football, Sunday pro football right now at WagerTalk.com. And don't forget a $1.99 football special for all of November, the rest of November, college and pro combined, for just $1.99. And Rob Vino, I want to start with you because you are the number one ranked return on investment handicapper, not only for all of 2020, all sports, but also for the NFL so far this year, hitting 60% on the NFL, 49%, actually about a 30% return on investment. Let's get it to 49%. Maybe that's a little foreshadowing after this Sunday, Rob. But I've got a doozy here for you. Good news is we have the best team in football right now, the Pittsburgh Steelers at 7-0, the only undefeated team remaining. Bad news is you're playing the Dallas Cowboys, who a few months ago were looking pretty good. Heard a stat today that the Cowboys' last 3 games, or last 9 quarters, I think, have not totaled Dak Prescott's last 1 quarter that he played. Cowboys are struggling, to say the least. We got Pittsburgh. We do have a line on this fine for the first couple of days of the week, but 13.5, Rob. Steelers a hefty favorite here in this one. Seeing 41.5 for the over-under, a very key number, right above 41. Rob Bino, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, it's interesting, Steve. Power rating came Pittsburgh minus 12. And you would expect Pittsburgh, that side, to be padded a little bit because public money's not going anywhere near Dallas at this point in time. So you have to shade it a little bit. This game kind of falls into, because we're seeing two ends of the spectrum with these double-digit lines. Does this game fall into the category of Giants as an almost impossible winner last night against the Bucs, cover rather easily? Or does it fall into the category of Jets plus 19.5 on Sunday, get swamped by KC by 26? You got to make that decision for yourself. You talked about the Dak Prescott numbers compared to Cowboys' last 9 quarters. Dallas's last 21 possessions, I checked through this, 14, or if you want to do the percentage-wise, it's 67% of their last 21 possessions have resulted in 28 total yards or less. Just not going anywhere offensively whatsoever. Now, I guess the good news to that is 4 of their last 5 against the Eagles on Sunday night wound up getting them 35 or more yards. So maybe there's an uptick here. I don't know. But they can't protect the quarterback. They've allowed 10 sacks, lost 103 yards in the last 2 games. And Pittsburgh, this is the 3rd straight opponent that Dallas is going to play that sits in the top 5 in defensive team sacks. So you face Washington, you get your quarterback killed. You face Philadelphia, you get your quarterback killed. And now you're going to face Pittsburgh. You could really get your quarterback killed. But I'm going to sit here, guys, and I'm going to build the situational case for the hold your nose underdog plus the points in this particular contest. I'll start with this. There's been some personnel additions for Dallas. Injured guys coming back, right? The return of Zach Martin, their best offensive lineman last game against Philly. That's a plus. The fact that the linebacking core, the gang's all together again. Jalen Smith, Van Der Esch, and also Sean Lee. We had a Sean Lee sighting last game. So those guys are back. Randy Gregory showed some form of a pass rush opposite DeMarcus Lawrence. So there's additions. They're coming from the defensive side, but at least they help Dallas out a little bit. Here's what we got going with the Steelers. Steelers are off 2 very, very draining games, right? They beat Tennessee right at the wire. They beat Baltimore right at the wire. Now you're coming in, you're playing a non-conference game, which is the least important of all as far as division, conference, non-conference. And it's a team you should absolutely roll. So, is the interest there for Dallas or for Pittsburgh? Excuse me. I'm not sure, but that's a situational angle towards the Cowboys. They have Cincinnati on deck, another divisional opponent. So you don't like to consider Cincinnati a team, a look ahead that would cause sort of a sandwich or a letdown spot, but I think it could be for sure. Pittsburgh has not been a favorite of this magnitude all season long, and they haven't won a game by 14 points all season long. So a lot of those situational things, guys, would point towards Dallas maybe losing, but covering the number. That's where I'll go with this one. I think Dallas may do just enough in an ugly game, maybe a defensive battle, something low scoring, and be able to come through and cover 13.5.
Yeah, Rob, they've won actually one game by more than 10 points. So that Cleveland game 3 weeks ago.
Right. That's the only one. Yep.
31.
38-7.
But you're exactly right. Yeah, for a 7-0 team, every win has been by 10 points or less, except for that one game. And that was a huge game too, Rob. They were a 3-point home favorite in the divisional game. So you're really talking about 3 big games in a row. And they played Philly, an in-state rival, the week before that. So Philadelphia, Cleveland, and now Tony, they're all back-to-back road dog wins, as Rob said, at Tennessee and Baltimore. And they've got Cincy on deck, and they're playing a non-conference road game. Now, I know it's the Dallas Cowboys, but it's still a non-conference road game. And Tony, in my 25-year career, I don't think I've ever seen a more extreme contrarian play in the NFL than this. You've got the Steelers not only at 7-0, but 6-1 against the spread. Cowboys are 0-8 against the spread this year, Tony. They have a minus 2.5 turnover margin a game, which is about as bad as you'll ever see this late in the season. And they just outgained the Eagles as a double-digit dog on Sunday Night Football, but they lost the game and failed to cover late. Tony, what's your take on this one? Obviously, it's a real contrarian play, as Rob said. You can't make a case for them statistically or being the better team, but it's still the NFL, and all these guys can play. DiNucci has not thrown the ball well, 5 yards per pass so far. No preseason numbers to look at. But, Tony, can you make a case here for Dallas? It definitely looks like the contrarian call of the week, if not of the entire season so far.
Yeah, Steve, I'll take the other side from Rob. I like the 13.5. I was at 14.5 on this before the Andy Dalton news that he's out with COVID. So he's recovered from the concussion, won't be able to play. And it is Ben DiNucci, former Pitt backup Ben DiNucci. So maybe this means a little more to him that the Steelers are coming to town. Or Cooper Rush, and this being MAC week, I think we might see him before all is said and done, because that offense, without the protection that everybody but Zach Martin doesn't offer along that offensive line, it's really tough to envision them doing much against an elite defense. And yeah, you can make the argument that a Steelers team could sleepwalk facing Dallas, but I think it's hard psychologically not to get up for facing America's team, for going into Jerry World and beating the Jesus out of the Dallas Cowboys, especially since you don't see them often. It is a game that probably a lot of these guys had circled, and now it doesn't just diminish in importance just because the Cowboys are terrible and injury decimated. Dallas has averaged 7.3 points over the past 3 games. Arizona, Washington, Philadelphia, all decent defenses. They're not elite like the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I have a hard time thinking Ezekiel Elliott is going to get back on track. It'll be easier on Ben DiNucci without the wind wailing in his face, but I think that the offensive line won't protect them at all. And then Ben Roethlisberger has done a really nice job spreading the ball out to different targets. Deontay Johnson came back and instantly became a factor, the factor that Chase Claypool was while Johnson was out. Eric Ebron touched the ball more last week, got into the end zone. Obviously, the number one is still Juju Smith-Schuster. You still can hand off to multiple backs whenever you need to. It's a really diverse offense. And, yeah, Dallas made some inroads this week defensively. Randy Gregory looked like he had a pulse. And, obviously, it's nice to see Sean Lee back. Their linebacking core, obviously, the strength of that team. But Trevon Diggs still getting picked on despite the 2 picks. That secondary is terrible. They can't cover everybody. And I think if the number is 13.5, I'm all over it with Pittsburgh. If the number goes up to 15 when everybody gets the Andy Dalton news and they get to lining up to try to fade DiNucci, I think we get up to 15.5, and then maybe it's a no touch. But at 13.5, sign me up for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I'm right. Once again, this line has come out because, as you said, Tony, Dalton will not play. He's on the injured COVID/injured list. So it's DiNucci. Prescott and Dalton are definitely out this week. It'd be interesting to see if we do get that key number of 14 guys. The total's at 41.5. 41, a very key number with NFL over-unders. So it's a half a point away from 2 key numbers. We'll see where it settles later this week when this game kicks off on Sunday. Once again, WagerTalk.com, $199 special for all football, college and pro combined for the rest of November. Mix and match any cappers you would like. Tony Mejia is on a fantastic start to college football and pro football, including a 21-11 current NFL run. By the way, Tony's 10-0 in recent free plays. You can get those on his page at WagerTalk.com. Rob Bino, as I mentioned earlier, the number 1 all-sports capper return on investment for 2020, number 1 for the NFL season so far, and on a current 26-11 NFL run. And I'm not too shabby. I'm on a 70% run the last couple of weeks, 7-3 NFL the last 2 weeks as well. WagerTalk.com, all of our best bets for this weekend, college and pro football. And be sure to check back each and every day for more free videos here on Wager Talk TV. Best of luck this weekend.